Okay, so what did we see in week 1 in 3D? So let's just have a look at what we did. Our most important menus were create, modify. I showed you that you can create things like standard primitives. Once you create it, you can go to modify. You can modify their height, width, length. You can modify the sections. You can see the subdivisions. So that's under modify. These buttons down here, this one zooms all the windows. Okay, this is just the selected. This one is just the selected object will get zoomed into. Again, this one is zoom in, zoom out for one window, zoom in, zoom out for all the windows. Okay, so that's zoom in, zoom out for one window, and there. And you can choose whether the zoom extent is for all the objects or only for the selected object. So these are the camera things, and up here we have three important friends. This one is to select, so I can select an object. This one is to move, and I think the shortcuts are WER, QWER, QWERTY, you know, the keyboards on top. So Q is to select, W is to move, E is to rotate, R is to scale. So you can use your fingers of the left hand on the keyboard and the mouse on the right. That's the way professionals use it to get very high speed of working, you know. So let's look at the move, W. So you can take an axis and move it. Right click to change the viewport, okay? Right click to change the viewport, because if you left click you will lose your selection. So right click to change the viewport, and then once you change the viewport, hover over the axis, see? Hover over the axis to change it. Rotate is very typical. I would not come here to select my axis because it might select the wrong axis. So always the way you drive a car, you take it from the top right or one of these quadrants, and you can rotate your object. And scale, now you can see the scale is happening on the global axis. You can actually tell him that it should happen on the local axis. There are certain ways to do that. Right now I'm just going to reset that and do my scale in the world axis. So move, rotate, scale up here, camera icons down here. That was one thing we saw. Our exercise was model, material, motion, movie, right? So I'm just going to very quickly recap that model, material, motion, movie. What we did was, we went into create, we went into shapes, and we went into text, and we typed IDM, let's say. Choose a nice font. Choice of font is really important. I'm going to have a nice thick font. I like serifs when it's big. I don't know what Batang does. It's too thin. It's got too thin lines, don't bevel well. So I'm not going to choose this one, but I will go to modify and I'm going to change my font. Okay, I'll keep Bookman also bold. So I had text. Then to make the text into a 3D object, I went into modify, and I could have used extrude. I showed you extrude. That straight away makes it into a 3D. But that gives me these sharp edges, which I don't want. So I can delete extrude, I can apply bevel, and you will be seeing a lot of these. I will show you that 10% which I use 80% of the time, okay, these heaps. We then looked at bevel. Now capping start and capping end is that the surface is there at the start and the end. We need it on. We come up here at level 1. I'm leaving everything as default. I'm not changing the start outline. See what happens? I'm not changing the start outline. I'm coming to level 1. I'm saying Level 1 should be 1, 1. So I get a bit of a bevel. Can you see that bevel? See that tiny bevel outside. Level 2, I'm just going to give it a height. Just a bit of a height, thickness. And level 3, I want it to go back inside. So 1 minus 1. Can you see I've got that chamfered edges now? That's how I got my 3D. To create a camera, I can go to create camera target, but I can just go Control C, right click here and press Control C. That actually gives me a camera, and if I say zoom extent all, there you can see that's my camera. That's my position of my camera. I can move it a bit down, and now these things affect the camera. And this is the look at. This is the look at, where I want the camera to look at. Okay, so that's the look at. So I got a camera. I can go and create a light. I'll just create an Omni light here in front. Probably, I don't like the lights to be too sharp. So I've got one light here, and probably hit it from the side. Yeah, somewhere here from the side, and somewhere from the top, just where the camera is seeing it. See, so I'm just positioning my lights. You know, just think of it in the real world, and move it to the side top. So I've got a light there. Finally, what I did was I selected a material. Now bear in mind, there's a very high quality material known as mental ray shaders, but to actually activate that, you have to go to render setup and choose that you're going to use a type of render. So if I just go to assign renderer, and I've got mental ray selected. So just bear in mind, if you want to use mental ray shaders, you have to have the mental ray selected. I didn't show this to you last time. Last time we did a basic material. There are two modes to use this material editor. You better get used to the new one because that's what everybody uses. Now we wanted to add a material, so what I did was I went into a standard material, and when we do our shield, we look at multi-sub object as well. So I just double clicked on standard. I double clicked on the material, so it comes up here. The material had a base color. I gave it a nice golden color. Ask questions if you don't understand anything. So I'm not expecting you to follow since I'm recording this. And then my highlight is something that is very sharp. In the types of shading, you can have heaps and heaps, and especially if you use mental ray materials. So if I actually went here and chose a mental ray type of renderer, and just to show you, if I just went to, for example, see this, look at the number of maps available in a mental ray. Okay, so I'm just going to kill this one. But I'll show you one of those. The trick is when you go to mental ray, you really want to sort of use a some kind of a loads type of material. So if you went here, I think you can select a template. See the template? If you want stone, glass, the best thing is to select a template if you're using a mental ray renderer. But okay, we will not do that. What I showed you last week was diffuse color. We used a metal shading because we wanted it nice and shiny, and because shiny things reflect things. Like when it rains, for example, how do you create a wet scene? You don't create a wet scene by putting drops everywhere. Wet scenes are nothing but shiny. Everything is shiny. The road is shiny, lights are shiny. Have you seen that? You know, everything is reflecting. Shininess has different types of shininess. So you have metal shininess, glass shininess. we added a map, a reflection map, and I had suggested a sunset. So reflection, bitmap, and I had a sunset. Up here, this, if my object is selected, I can select my object. This I can here assign material to selection, assigns it. This one will show me the texture if I want to. I can see the texture. I'm going to minimize this, and there I've got my material. I'm going to render it just to test my material. Oh, it's rendered the top view, so, or the front view. I'm going to select this one and render again. Rendering, render, and my rendering is looking a bit different because I've selected the Mental Ray renderer, and it gives you a better finish. The Mental Ray renderer is a high quality finish. Can you see that? Nice, awesome, crispy gold. Yeah. Finally, what we did was we animated it, and I showed you keyframes. I can go to auto key. I can go to auto key, and I can say this is my first keyframe. Actually, no. Let me come to the last one. Right click and let me just set a key. Yep, I've created a key here, right? Then I come somewhere. Then I come to the first frame. I can change the duration. This is 4 seconds. I can change the duration to 6 seconds, whatever PAL, and I should have done that. I should go here and make it to PAL. So I come to the first frame. In the first frame, I'm going to move this. Now bear in mind, because this red, everything is red here, it is warning me. It is warning me that I'm setting a keyframe. And see this, if I actually move the slider, see my animation? Now I want a bit of a tumble. So in the first frame, I'm also going to, my last frame looks all right. I'm not messing around with the last frame. I'm going to do a 180-degree tumble. So as this goes, can you see that, how it slides in? And I'm also going to move my camera so that my camera also kind of, my camera here. So when I come here, I move my camera a bit here. So my camera actually tracks the object a bit. See that? My camera tracks it. So that was auto key. I gave it keyframes. Finally, what I did was, of course, you must save your project. Let's save this, give it a name. Revision 3D anim. Okay. And finally, what we did was we went to render. We went to render setup. We chose that this should be a movie, and I really hope I did press the record button. I think I did. And render output. So first thing, what do I want to render? I want to render all the frames. I want to render all the frames up here, and I want to render it into a file. So go to files. I think what worked last time was AVI worked fine, and I've got a folder called render output. Now you can mimic a folder on your D drive, on your pen drive, on your hard drive. Make one folder for meshes, save the max file there. Make one folder for maps, save your sunsets and pictures there. Make one folder for render outputs and save your render outputs there, okay? If you don't want to use the max default folder, and it's a bit painful for you guys. And I just go 3D animation revision, recap. I might have a setup in terms of DB encoder. Okay, I'll go for DB encoder, save. Quality doesn't give me any settings. I'll go for the default, and I can hit render and it will render a movie. So I'll stop this recording now.